Now, as we move into the service, I would like to bring forward Reverend Vito, LaNave, a very dear friend of ours for many, many years. He's a wonderful teacher of ours, dedicated to this chapel, dedicated to this family, dedicated to the world of metaphysics. He travels constantly. We're very lucky to have him today because of his busy travel schedule. But he travels and speaks in different parts of the world on metaphysics and self-empowerment and leadership principles and lifestyle coaching principles. And this gentleman is really the epitome of our vision, which is wherever he goes, he's creating a space so that those people can transform their lives to greatness. And that's why we love our Reverend Vito. Please go forward.
Good morning, South Florida. Good morning. It's always wonderful to be back here. I get to come here and give a message a few times a year. And I see a lot of familiar faces, and I've been doing an ongoing culture meeting class here for a number of years. I see a lot of my students here, and they shine, and I'm so proud of them. They really signifies the symbol of the sunflower, which is the symbol of spiritualism. And they're so great. So many of them are great mediums, and they're giving their gifts to the world. So I'm glad to see them here this morning. It's the Christmas season, and I thought I would talk a little bit about Christmas, but not normal Christmas talk about. I'm not going to talk about the religious, the orthodoxy part of Christmas, because much of that is based in myth and also dogma and creed. But I'm going to talk about the historical part of Christmas, the historical Jesus the Christ. Not the church Jesus the Christ. And there's a big difference between the historical Jesus the Christ. The word Christ means the anointed one. Translated directly from Hebrew, the word Messiah means the anointed one. And of course, that has been distorted. And through the years, Christianity, from what its origin was, has been, and I'll use the word distorted. If I was living in the 14th century, you'd see me burning on stakes, or my head chopped off, like some of my heroes, like Jacques de Molay, or St. Joan of Arc, or Thomas More, who had the truth that they had to let out that could not be suppressed. And so when did it all stop? Well, there was a council called the Council of Nicaea in the year 380, when Constantine converted to Christianity. And everything began to change. The birth of Christ was celebrated up to that time at his actual birth, which was the end of May or April. But it had to conform with the Roman gods. There was a god called Myrtha, who was the main god in the Roman Empire, which was brought by Alexander the Great into Europe from Persia. And it was a religion of Zoroastrianism. And Myrtha was born of a virgin. Myrtha had 12 followers that worked in his inner circle. Myrtha was crucified, and 3 days later raised from the dead. So this was a great way to take Christianity and put it into the existing Roman temples already. And that's where the distortion began. But if you want to know the truth, the origin of Christmas, and really with the prophet Jesus, and by the way, his name wasn't Jesus. It was Yeshua ben Yusuf, meaning Joshua, son of Joseph. When it was translated into the Greek, the only way they could Greek Yeshua is to Yesu, which became Jesus. And so we've even been calling him for 2,000 years by his wrong name. He's Joshua, son of Joseph. But historically, everything you heard about the birth of Jesus was pretty much the truth. Except the symbolism of what it meant has been totally distorted. The Gnostics, who were the original Christians who carried the message of Jesus the Christ for up to 380 years before it became part of the official religion of the Roman Empire, practiced the original what Jesus meant. In metaphysics, Jesus the man That's what Jesus means, the man, metaphysics. Christ means his consciousness, or what we call the Christ consciousness. And, it's not only common sense. You hear people always say Jesus Christ, but the real thing is Jesus the Christ. Christ was not his last name. Hebrews said he was the Messiah, which meant the anointed one. It doesn't mean Savior, although you can translate it like a lot of words into different things to make it mean. But he was the anointed one, and he was. They say when he was born, and this is historical, because we do have history. Yusuf of the Jews wrote a historical account of Jews during the time of Christ, and they talked about when he was born, he glowed, which means he was a very special person. He was born in a stable. He wasn't born in the manger because there was no manger there. He was born laid in the hay. And what was the significance of him not being born in the inn? We all heard there's no room at the inn. The significance was because the inn is where normal people went. Nobody has a baby in the stable. So Jesus was born in the not norm. So he came to earth to bring not a normal message, but a new message. And they say, when they looked at him, you could see purity. And if you translate the word purity out of Hebrew, it's translated, it's the word virgin. Therefore, the virgin birth. He was pure of heart when he was born. Purity, the words are interchangeable. You could see the divinity within him. The story of the three wise men. They represent the three parts of man. The body, the emotions, and the soul. And so the gift that they brought him represented those aspects of our human nature. The message that the Christ brought into this world is we are all gods. We are all born of pure God within ourselves, and the spark of God lives within us, and we come here for a human experience to deliver this out of us so we can grow and expand. There is no such thing as sin. You want to look up the word sin, it means missing the mark or error. We made a mistake. That's also called sin. Is we correct it, we're back on the path. But yet we have fire and brimstone, and we are lowly people. But we are not lowly people. We're the highest people next to the angels. One step below, God created man, and man is divine in God, and part of God created out of God. So if you're created out of God, you've got part of God within you. We are divine creatures, not equal to God with a capital G, a little lower. But we have the creative power of that God to create our own lives. And part of us being here on earth is to know ourselves so we can know our Creator. And to have the very best life that we can. But in the West, we have been indoctrinated so much that we are sinners, and that we are here, and we are slaves. But the truth is we are not slaves. Unless we choose to take that mentality. We are all winners. When things happen to us on earth, we're not victims, we're volunteers. But we have to become not victims anymore, but victors, to rise above it, to know the true self of who we are. We're the greatest thing on the face of the earth. We're the only creature created on earth that has free will, and that is God's greatest gift. Because through our free will is how we learn. We choose to do the wrong thing. A will is just choices. We choose the wrong thing. We suffer the consequences of that choice. And then we decide to correct it, and we have the benefits of the right choice. Sin does not exist in the manner of what church says. It's simply a mistake. We learn from it, and we grow. We are great people. If we're created in the image and likeness of God, how can we be bad? That whole thing was created by the church, unfortunately. Like I said, I'd be very that mistake for crowd control. You need to live this way. You need to live this. And you need to do this. And there's nothing right or wrong with moral principles. We all have our moral principles, and be true to thyself. But the idea is if we make wrong choices, it's perfectly okay because we can correct them with the next choice. There is nothing wrong with any of us. And to judge each other is really the biggest mistake we can be, because we're all on the same journey. We're all learning. We're learning to get it right. And someday we will all get it right. The prophet Jesus is recognized throughout the whole world and through many religions. This may shock you a little bit, but in the Quran, which is the holy book of Islam, the Muslims, Jesus is mentioned 25 times in the first person and 48 times in the third person. He's a very high prophet in Muslim, except that in Muslim he is called Isis. E-I-S-A. Isis or Isis. And the prophet Isis is in the Quran, and it's stored there about him being crucified on the cross. The only difference with him from the Bible is when they took him down from the cross, it said they nursed him back to life. And then he began his ministry again, and he preached in the East. And today there are documentaries that find his grave where he finally died in India. And there's plenty of proof now during the years that it's up to, he was from 12 to 33, that he studied in India. And there's documents in some of the Hindu temples that he went there and he learned. He learned his metaphysics there. So when we look about Jesus, the historical man, he had so much to offer for us. But yet, so many people that follow him, they don't follow the teachings of Jesus the Christ. They worship Jesus the Christ. And that's not what he wanted. It wasn't about worshiping him. It's about learning the principles that he taught and to become better human beings. And that has been forgotten. And some of you won't like the message I gave today. They even call me a heretic. You know, it's like go to the bakery, take a number, get lines for it. There's plenty that do it. But there's plenty that also like my message. But I have to be true to myself. I have to be true to myself. You know, I studied, when I was in seminary, I studied all types of theology. I did part of my doctorate. I went to India and followed a man around called Sai Baba for 6 months. And I watched that man when he walked on the ground, it's like his feet never touched. And he was an Indian that had sort of like an afro hair, almost like black people. And he wore an orange robe. And I was following him down a dirt road with a bunch of followers at one time. And there was a family stuck with 6 kids in this little tiny car. It was almost like a Volkswagen Vito, but it wasn't a Vito. It was a car similar. And he walked up to them and they said, Baba, please help us. We're out of petrol, which is their word for gasoline. We don't know how we're going to get out of this. And Baba stood there for a few minutes. And he walked up to that car next to the gas tank. And he went, boom! And the gasoline, the petrol, flowed out of it onto the ground. And I remember one time a man stopped Baba and got down on his knees and said, Baba, are you God? And there was silence for a few moments. And then the answer came, yes, and so are you. Namaste. I salute the God in you. The God in me salutes the God in you. Yes, there was a historical Jesus, and there was a Christmas. And I'm going to end with a little story of how we got the Christmas tree and presents. In Germany, they had a god, a pagan god called Kringle. And his god of the woods. And every winter, his followers went into the woods and cut down the tree and brought it into the house as homage to Kringle, so that in the spring the trees would blossom and there would be crops. And they would bring presents to Kringle. And that got involved into Christianity sometimes. So today we have a Christmas tree and we got presents, and now it's involved into the biggest commercial part of the season. Dollar, dollar, dollar. Which there's nothing wrong with it. Let's know the symbolism of where we came from. Again, thank you for letting me to come here and share with you again. It's always a pleasure. I'm a member of this chapel here, and it's always a pleasure to come back and serve you the best way I can. I've been doing that class for almost 4 or 5 years, whatever it is. Kevin just gave me the schedule for 2018. It's on my website. So the whole year is put up there. Now that's subject to change because every once in a while, Kevin makes a little change in it. I love you people here. I'm glad I could be here. And thanks for allowing me to come here.